We couldn't possibly go to Virginia without visiting Staunton, the home of the Statler Brothers, one of the greatest country quartets of all time. We stayed at a little campground called Glenmorey Park, which was not a bad place, not great, but it was okay for our purposes. Our first visit was to Monticello, obviously, the home of Thomas Jefferson, and it was very interesting, a very good history lesson, and we could talk forever about the man who wrote the Constitution and yet still owned slaves. Very interesting contradiction. We moved on south to Appomattox Courthouse, and this is the place where, in fact, this is the house where the documents were signed between General Grant and General Lee that were essentially the end of the Civil War. Also a very interesting place to visit.
We sort of happened on Schuyler, Virginia, which is the home of Earl Hamner, who wrote the book that The Waltons was based on. I found it very interesting because this is one of my all-time favorite TV shows. They have converted the old schoolhouse into separate rooms that resemble the rooms from the TV show that we all loved and remember.
We also visited the National D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia. Interesting thing that I learned is that black and white pattern was painted on the wings of all of the Allied aircraft so that they wouldn't be shot down by friendly fire. And you can see that pattern on the wings of that plane. They were all painted that way. This water depicts the English Channel, and you can see some simulated gunfire going off. Many of these pictures were taken from the Blue Ridge Parkway. And you can tell it's early in our time in Virginia because the color in the leaves is just starting to appear. And as this video progresses, you'll be able to see how they become more vivid as each day passes. We spent 3 days in the historic triangle of Jamestown, Yorktown, and Williamsburg, where we learned a lot more about American history. All right, I'll only speak for myself, but more than I learned in the 7th or 8th grade or whenever we were supposed to learn all that stuff. And it was really fascinating. At Jamestown, they have ongoing archaeological digs, And you can see in a couple of upcoming pictures here that they are still recovering not only artifacts but remains of people that were at Jamestown. This active dig site, because it's got a building around it, is because they anticipate finding remains in there, and once they start to unearth those remains, they will put down sides so that people can't watch for the privacy of the deceased. I think Yorktown was our favorite of the 3 points of the triangle. The park ranger that stood out on the battlefield and gave a presentation about the final battle was fascinating. She did a wonderful job of bringing it alive, and she was most impressed when we told her that Barb's 5th great-grandfather had fought in that battle. So that really kind of made it have a personal touch as well. From the historic triangle, we moved back west to Shenandoah National Park. We spent a week there in 2 different campgrounds, Loft Mountain and Matthews Arm, and as you can see, the color has really started to develop since our earlier pictures. Skyline Drive runs through Shenandoah National Park, mostly along the ridge of the mountain, and it's 104 miles from one end of the park to the other. And of course, leaf peeping is a very popular pastime at this time of year. Lots of people in the park while we were there. The spot where we were sitting to enjoy the sunset one night was right on the Appalachian Trail. Even Molly enjoyed watching the sunset. From the campground, I was able to hike out to Overall Run Falls, which is, I believe, the highest falls in Shenandoah. And it was really a really nice hike going out. It was all downhill and it was great. I got to the falls, which were beautiful. And of course, then I have the all uphill hike going back. And to say, they said it was moderately strenuous. That might be true for a younger person, but for me it was pretty strenuous. But it was a beautiful hike. When the folks at Luray Caverns found out that we were from Indiana, they had to tell us that our Wyandotte caves may be a little bit bigger, but Luray is certainly more beautiful. I guess that's up for discussion. The music you're about to hear is played by an organ that strikes stalactites with small rubber mallets. It was a little hard to identify, but the tune they were playing is "A Mighty Fortress Is Our God." My second hike in Shenandoah was Dark Hollow Falls, and once again I learned the lesson that when the trailheads are all on the ridge, then it's downhill on the way out and uphill on the way back.